Welcome back. Are you waking up cranky, on edge with brain fog? Here to talk about that and how to release stress is Dr. Laura Picciano. She's a board-certified internist from the Ripper Center of Cooper Health System. Welcome, Dr. Picciano.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. Many people have trouble sleeping, and whether they can't fall asleep on time and they try to, or they're waking up and then waking up and then waking up. So what do people need to do, and why is it that people are sort of not taking lack of sleep seriously?
It's hard to say. I think there's a lot of demands nowadays on people in general, and we all take our work home. Let's face it, we're still on our iPads and we're still on our computers until late night, and that's actually a significant reason that we are no longer getting the proper sleep that we need. What happens is we often use these devices and there's a certain light that's emitted that actually interferes with sleep. So if we're using these right before bedtime, already we're setting us up for some problems.
So do we need to kind of turn that off a few hours beforehand? Is that what you're recommending?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's just one thing. The list goes on and on.
Okay, so people don't recognize, though, that it's such a major problem and how it really interferes with overall with our health. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, fatigue. The actual biggest cause of fatigue is lack of quality sleep. And a lot of times we're sort of setting ourselves up with our lifestyle changes. There's things that we do, for example, a lot of caffeine in our diet, what we consider to be a nightcap, and hopefully not self-medicating, although we do see that from time to time.
Right.
They sure do. They sure do. So unfortunately, we start setting ourselves up, and before we know it, we're waking up and we're saying, you know, I felt like I didn't sleep, even though I might have been in bed for 6 to 8 hours. And then that basically just starts a whole horrible cascade of, I don't feel well, I'm not as productive, maybe there's some increased stress with that, and then very, very significant consequences like falling asleep when driving. That's very dangerous.
Right.
Exactly, and we're just not at our personal best.
What do we need to do personally to create that optimal health within ourselves, other than just the sleep aspect?
There's a lot of things we can do. First of all, I go through with all my patients, how are we doing with diet and exercise? Are we cleaning this up? Are we avoiding, I call it watch out for the ENs, nicotine, caffeine.
Oh.
These are significant issues. And I find that a lot of times it may just go beyond the 1 cup of coffee in the morning to wake up. It's people that are trying so desperately to make up for that fatigue. So again, trying to use the use of stimulants, those 5-hour energy drinks, for example, that we see marketed. And some of that stuff actually works in a bad way because we're staying up and we're just not getting that downtime that we need to relax our bodies.
So maybe doing that a little bit, but not really overdoing it is important.
Exactly, and also timing it. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with having a cup of coffee early in the morning, but the caffeine can hang around quite often, very long, especially if we're, you know, saying I have a deadline and I want to get a little energy, and I'm doing that at 5 o'clock towards the end of the day, or that 3 o'clock pick me up when we all start tanking. That can last well into the night.
The Ripper Center has been around for a few years. Tell us what's very unique about it.
It's a great place. It really is.
Not just because you work there.
Not just because I'm there either. But basically, I just came on board on February, and that's when we had our second awakening, if you want to say. And what's special about it is we do only women. We're head-to-toe care, basically. We have a group of multi-specialists that come and do hours there. We're only seeing women, and there's only really women doctors that are there. So we're women treated by women, and we also have a great mission, and that's to educate. And that really is my heart. I love to educate lay folks about their bodies and their health, as well as obviously students and physicians-to-be. So a lot of our mission is education because, let's face it, your body doesn't always come with an owner's manual.
Perfect, right. We need to learn that. And I knew about the fact that it was from head to toe from speaking with you, but I didn't know that it was all women doctors. And I think that sometimes when you have women concerns, that makes it easier to have a conversation with someone.
Without doubt, without doubt.
Stress. Stress seems to be a really big factor in our lives. You mentioned that, and it's often a killer and can lead to a lot of serious problems. What do we need to do to minimize our stress or take care of us so that the stress doesn't get out of control?
Well, the biggest thing is to first recognize that it's there. I have a lot of folks that'll say, Dr. P, I know it's not there, but then as I'm listening to them recount a day, I can just say, here it goes, it's going on a whole lot. Well, first of all, the first thing you can do is, again, cleaning up the diet and exercise. It's very, very hard to bear stress when we're just not taking care of ourselves in a general fashion. So people who are malnourished, even overstimulated, these people are really going to be affected, especially if there's underlying mental health issues to begin with. The first thing you want to do is get that house in order. Second,
that house meaning
that whole body.
It's body house.
Exactly.
Right.
And then it's actually getting the appropriate resources. I do recommend most of the times to seek counseling or discuss it with your doctor. Are you somebody that would benefit from counseling? And then in those cases where we're failing that, recognize that there might be a role for medication treating your condition.
Oftentimes people not only have stress, but they don't know where to turn, other than sometimes you said it's a great idea to turn to your physician, but there's so much information out there. What do we trust? How do we know what to trust that's accurate?
There is a lot of information, unfortunately not all of it good. I think the internet in many ways is a blessing and sometimes a curse.
Right.
Here's what I would recommend. You should form a relationship with the primary doctor. And when I say primary, it could be internal medicine, family practice, maybe gynecology if you're a woman, and ask them for their advice. There's a reason why they should be well vetted and board certified, and those are your most reliable sources. That's your first and primary source. If you see something and you're not particularly sure if this is factual or not, bring it up at your visit. You know, bring that up. We're not averse. A good doctor is never averse to saying, hey, you know, I'm looking at this, looking at that, because you also not only need the information, but you have to make sure that the study that is being referenced is valid.
So oftentimes a lot of your doctors, your own doctor, your own physician, internist will use complementary medicine. Dr. Laura, this has been so wonderful.
Thank you.
Dr. P, as your patients call you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Still ahead, are you having a summertime barbecue or picnic? Up next, expert advice and tips to keep you and your family and your guests healthy and free from foodborne illnesses when Power Your Life returns.